posts in areas, paid media.
At this point in
never-ending to-do list, right? Or just
Leadership training.
We had a chance to connect today. I'm really excited to start digging into all of your work and some of your experience as well. I would love it if you could take 30 seconds, introduce yourself, and tell us what drove you to start your business.
Hi, my name is Dr. Jennie Ding. I'm a Canadian family physician specializing in lifestyle medicine and metabolic health. I started my company, Kale Health Canada, for blood sugar optimization as a result of my own personal journey with prediabetes that I was actually able to reverse in under 30 days through this program that I created. I thought this would be of service for lots of other people, especially working in Canada in the medical system, seeing more and more blood sugar complications, chronic diseases, you name it. It can all be tied back to lifestyle a lot of the time. And really, that's what motivated me to start the company and leverage some of the latest health gadgets like continuous glucose monitors, gut health testing, to make things really data-driven and personalized.
Let's start with it. I find it fascinating when I speak to entrepreneurs that had an experience in life and that was the catalyst to starting their business. So talk about what inspired you to start your business, especially since you also don't fit the stereotypical profile of those who are being diagnosed for type 2 diabetes. So I definitely want to hear about that. And then we could maybe after talk about a lot of people have experiences, but not a lot of people start businesses. And I'd love to dig into that after.
Okay, amazing. Happy to dig into all those pieces. Just to start, I am in my mid-30s. And people don't think of diabetes, prediabetes, these kind of blood sugar related conditions until you're older. Right now in the healthcare system, we don't start screening people for blood sugar, cholesterol issues, etc. until you're 40 plus. So back in the day, about 2 years ago, I started having vague symptoms, feeling tired in the morning despite sleeping 7-9 hours, needing extra caffeine, brain fog, unable to achieve my fitness goals. I was doing 5-10K runs, half marathons, just needing a lot of more time to recover. My body was under lots of physical stress, and I was working as a family physician in urgent care doing rural remote medicine, a lot of psychological, mental work stress too. I was still around the COVID era. I felt off. Didn't feel great physically, mentally. My mood was variable. I went to my GP, asked for lab tests for screening for sugar, cholesterol, anemia, like the full workup. I found I was at prediabetes. I was in the middle of the range for prediabetes. I thought I was doing all the right things. Exercising, eating mostly plant-based whole foods, intermittent fasting, yoga, meditation. It was not working for me. I feel like we're doing all the right things for our body, but we are still not feeling our best and we're still sick.
I think a lot of people can relate to that, especially at the speed at which we live life.
Yes. 100%. We're confused about what to do. We want to be more in control of our health and don't know where to start. Having a medical background, a bit of a nerd, I was like, okay, I don't want to do any medications. And I actually talked to some endocrinologists, friends, colleagues, even specialist referrals about this condition. They said it's not too bad.
What does that mean? I should stay in this situation because it's not too bad?
One of them actually surprisingly, one of the endocrinology specialists I talked to surprisingly recommended me to put on more weight because she thought my weight was too low, but I weighed basically the same my whole entire adult life, plus or minus 5 to 8 pounds. I wasn't doing crazy diets or anything. So that was just like, okay, if I put on more weight, that's just going to make my conditions worse. And that wasn't it. So I looked into the research, the science behind blood sugar control, went to the primary studies, looked through all the data, and then came up with a program for me that touched on all aspects of my life. It wasn't a drastic shift, but enough.
Because you are a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are facing these challenges, being served by peers and health professionals,
Mm-hmm.
what chance does someone that is not high on the economic class, like working class, or that doesn't have necessarily a deep education into health, what you're saying is that the things, even though we're following all the marks, sometimes that's not enough.
It's very confusing. We get so much information from all kinds of sources, right? Physicians, specialists, friends, families, social media, news articles, books, the best source of information. We end up needing to tease out what would work the best for us. And that's super confusing for everybody, right? Especially if you don't have the medical background, you don't have the science background, you don't have the education to decipher the information. When I work with clients through Kale Health Canada, what I end up having to do is to almost deprogram, right? They're thinking a little bit, right? Here are the facts, here are the myths, here are things that you thought were helping, but actually it was not. It was actually causing harm. What I want to do with the company and the service is to be the trusted source of information and leverage your personal data. We say, oh, we're eating healthy, we're exercising, but how do you know if it's working? With gut testing, we can see real-time changes in, okay, this is actually working. Oh, this is not, right?
Very true. People don't know where to start because we're living in a time where information from trusted sources is incorrect. You have people labeling as experts, and sometimes they're more convincing than the ones who are actually licensed and certified. So, how do you suggest people tell if the information on your platform is ideal compared to what's out there?
Yeah, so great question. And it is tough because it comes down to marketing for these companies, these individuals to use certain labels that are misleading for the public, right? To understand if they're getting credible information. I am a Canadian trained family physician. I did additional training from Harvard Medical School in lifestyle culinary medicine, and I specialize in metabolic health with a focus on blood sugar. That's a differentiating factor in mine. I also have the lived experience a lot of physicians don't. And in the medical system, in medical school, during our training, we don't get really any education on nutrition. When it comes to nutrition, it's really the bulk of the game, blood sugar and metabolic health. For credible information, look at the type of work individuals have done in the past. Even if they say they are expert in X, Y, and Z, they may not be qualified to provide you with certain advice. For example, the endocrinologist that told me to put on more weight because that could help with my blood sugar, which didn't make sense to me.
I'm not a doctor and it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
That's where some of our faith starts to shatter. We feel like we have to become advocates for ourselves. That's why your solution is really interesting because it gives us an opportunity to not be accountable, be part of the solution ourselves.
You are supported with one-on-one consults with me for that guidance, for that support. And I provide you with the tools, personal and rooted in science and based on your body's data, right? So we end up making your body work for you, not against you. We find solutions that stick. We want you to see short-term results so that you get that immediate win by seeing the improvements in your blood sugar with the continuous glucose monitor real-time data, the gut health testing data. But we also want these short-term results to stick long-term. So it's about sustainability and how we can create that process, that plan for you. We don't end up needing to follow you for long-term because sometimes services out there where they say, oh, yeah, we need you for months or years. My goal is to get you healthy, you can stay healthy, and then I'll hand that over to you, right? And then if you want to come back for support, happy to.
I love that. You're making them more knowledgeable, which means as they grow, they'll be able to notice the triggers. If they notice a change, they can go back. Is that right?
Here's an example from one of my clients recently. They thought it's fall, butternut squash, pumpkins, super healthy. but ate homemade butternut squash soup using the sensor, showed their blood sugar went up to 13. The normal should be around 4 to 7 before eating, 7 to 8 after eating, but theirs kept going up, which is surprising. Exactly, right? But that's not to say that person can never have butternut squash again. It's really about how we eat, what we eat, so that is good for our body. We figured out maybe is what you didn't eat before, or that caused the spike, right? If we didn't have the preloading with fiber, with vegetables, if our gut health is not balanced, then it throws other things off.
When you say you can never have this, you're going to be obsessed with wanting it. But the thought that it's not so much that you can't eat certain things, it's maybe not that you can't do something or have something, but the context from which you're able to have it that changes.
It's like Pandora's box. If you tell them not to do it, they're going to end up doing it or obsess over it until they end up breaking and going through that cycle again. Fat diets don't work. Restrictive eating doesn't work. We need to befriend ourselves, our body, to take care of ourselves inside and out. I love sugar. Everybody loves sugar. I'm not anti-sugar because we're genetically programmed to love sugar. Is our body's most preferred form of energy. You can still have dessert, but we need to figure out how you can eat dessert without having metabolic health issues down the road.
I find that fascinating. And I think more and more people are starting to become aware of their need to be aware and to learn something. Most of our audience are busy business people making high risk, high impact decisions every day. And we know that has an impact on cortisol, etc. How does someone who is basically living on sugar bars on the run gain the discipline to use a platform and service like yours realistically?
Yeah, that's a great question. Of my clients are busy professionals, business owners, entrepreneurs, engineers, lawyers, accountants, like people who have lots of demands, right? Personally and professionally. They have young families that they need to take care of while also need to be present for their work, right? And so that also is so important why they need to take care of their metabolic health. Because just think back in the day when I was having my blood sugar problems of prediabetes, I was having brain fog, fatigue, unable to focus, performance issues, all this stuff. That's impacting our work. We need to start prioritizing our health so that we can show up for ourselves, for our work, our family. And the service and the products and the tools that I provide, it doesn't take a lot of time, right? You stick your sensor on, it gives you real-time data, push directly to your phone. I can access results and we can chat to review things and we can touch base as we go things. So it really is about having expert guidance in your support network to get you on the right track. You don't need me long term.
Excellent. Let's dig into the health savings plan more employees are starting to put into place. How can they reach you? How can their HR people to see they can do a pilot project?
Oh, 100%. So I've spoken a lot about the one-on-one working with individuals. Right now, we're also expanding to working with companies directly. Think of management consultants. Sometimes with the term management consultants, they may either get really good feel or they may get a bad taste, depending on your past experiences. But essentially, KPMG, Deloitte, go into companies, figure out what problem, come up with recommendations and the solution. They may help with implementation or execution for whatever the plan is. Some of the times they do work with companies for corporate wellness, focusing a lot of it on mental health, sometimes on fitness, depending on the company. But what we are looking to do for companies and businesses is to position ourselves as metabolic consultants around nutrition, right? So that you can have better employee productivity, performance, less sick time, lower insurance costs, you name it. And really coming into an organization, figuring out the health, the overall concerns faced by the employees, come up with some feasible solutions for the organization, providing employees access to tools like glucose sensors, gut health testing, and consultations. Then leveraging that to implement and execute the solution. We actually trying to help companies to figure out, okay, here's a solution, and here are the tools that we can do to implement and execute and monitor benefits long term.
That sounds interesting. One of the biggest things, having been in that HR space, is how do we get employees to buy in? How do we get people to buy in to taking care of their health for the long term through exercises or campaigns like this?
Yeah, that's why having personal data makes you more invested in your health, right? So for employees, if they can access things like the continuous glucose monitors, they could see real-time changes from when they eat steel-cut oats for breakfast or a snack in the lunchroom at the company, and how that's going to affect their sugar and ultimately their brain function, physical function later on the day or even the day after. So then they will likely be more invested in programs the company puts out for their metabolic health and nutrition.
I suppose it could be gamified.
Totally. That's one of my clients where they say seeing changes in your blood sugar and understanding your gut microbiome, it's almost like gamification. You can see, okay, how can I hack my system so that my sugar is more in line? How do I stay balanced?
I love that. It could work for families too, right? It's a good exercise to promote healthy living, especially since kids and teenagers, there's a lot of bad food.
The snack industry is, oh my God, $1 trillion industry worldwide. And the snack aisle is just, there are always new products there. And they make it very enticing for people to buy it. Really know what's happening inside our body. Yeah.
Exactly. Maybe gamifying it can make it more enticing. It doesn't mean they can't have any ever. We create balance and couple the food with things necessary so it doesn't create spikes in your system. Interesting. I would love to find out more about you. At this point in your life, you decided to become an entrepreneur. A lot of people have life-changing experiences, but don't necessarily use it as a catalyst for entrepreneurship. What makes you different than those who lived this experience and continued on their way?
I'm Chinese and I grew up in China, moved to Canada when I was young, lived with my grandparents in China. My grandma focuses on health prevention, Tai Chi, cooking, and meditation. My grandpa loves working in the garden. It's a holistic upbringing. I always wanted to focus on prevention since I started medicine. I didn't know how to have the biggest impact on people's lives.
I was going to say that's unique in the health sector. We're trained to treat symptoms, not prevent things. So I find that unique and interesting that you started on that path with that perspective.
Yeah, and I think also it's in part, I started my company in part of frustration with the current system in that you're right, it's very reactive, focused on acute care, just talking about symptoms rather than the underlying cause as to why you're feeling the way you're feeling, right? And so growing up, always very curious, always asked a million whys, want to understand the nitty gritties of everything, really drove my grandparents nuts. That helped me get to where I am today. I said, okay, I'm feeling all these things. What's going on? Why is my blood sugar crazy when I have no family history? I thought I was doing the right things, and created something that worked for me and is working for other people too. And to also ties in perfectly with my value of helping people prevent disease rather than just bandage symptoms later.
I think if we can we're doing the same thing for business people. As I speak to you and other entrepreneurs, certain traits are coming up that you touched on today. That sense of curiosity. Can we do something different? It doesn't have to be this way. Like all of those questions that seem to be part of our natural character. It creates this common thread across all the entrepreneurs I speak to. I find it really interesting. As I listen to you, you are definitely part of the club.
Thank you. I love being part of this club. Yeah. I think we are all dreamers in a sense. Yeah. There's some niche we can improve, some kind of change that we can help to bring in a positive way. Exactly. So we're optimistic.
I think we have to be because it's not a smooth ride. I think those are the things that keep us going. There's this trend about how entrepreneurs, if you decide to be an entrepreneur, your mission needs to be bigger than you. You shouldn't start solely to make $1, right? So when things get hard for most people, it starts to not be enough. But when we have an altruistic, help people get control of their lives and health better, that when it gets hard, that kind of keeps you, I really need to get up because there are lives at stake.
Exactly. Is that internal drive, motivation is something bigger than ourselves that keeps us going. We picked this journey, so we picked the problems that comes with it, and also, of course, the good and the bad. I still work as a physician a couple of days a week, understand current challenges, but I selected to focus on metabolic health, blood sugar control, gut health, to give people empowerment. I'm in charge, I can take control, I know what to do, and I feel better.
Out of curiosity, and I ask because I wonder what's happening in the healthcare sector. There's not enough doctors to treat patients. If the industry was more about prevention than symptoms, I think we may not have this kind of challenge and pressure on the system. Many doctors are starting to leave clinics, leave the hospitals and so forth to start alternative paths like yourself, still in medicine, but on your terms. Do you think it's because it's a calling, frustration with the way the system? Is it your wanting to have better balance, although entrepreneurship balance is a dream? What do you think is making doctors like yourself look at different paths and the route laid out for you when you graduate?
The system is set up in a way that is reactive. And a lot of the times, at least for myself, I feel frustrated with the things I can and cannot do within the confines of the system offers. So that puts a lot of limitations in leveraging some of these things that I'm able to do through Kale Health Canada. And the public system doesn't have funding for it, doesn't have coverage for it, but at the same time is piling on more responsibility to physicians for them to do, whether it's for the system or for the patient or for just their workflow. There's more things being piled on in terms of what physician needs to be responsible for. Right. There's not a lot of support for them to complete these things. So to burnout and frustration, at least me and some colleagues feel, we are actually not solving the problem at the end of the day.
That's frustrating.
You see the revolving door of the same conditions or people in the system. It's frustrating that I'm not able to address the root cause. We don't have the ability to go beyond and be innovative. Yeah.
I wonder if there's a third option now. If there's more and more physicians and specialists like yourself that are creating these technological platforms to help people from their homes, if there's an opportunity for governments and our institutions to maybe make what you're doing and what your fellow health professionals and entrepreneurs be more accessible, and therefore lighten the load from the hospitals and the clinics and offer a new avenue so that you can be fulfilled and clients can get the preventive care they need.
I think that would be the dream. If we can get the public system on board with the funding, the resources to support these things we're doing, that other similar companies are doing, the health tech space. Yeah, I think that would be the dream. There needs to be enough traction for us to make a case for the government.
Another to-do list.
Oh my gosh.
So
Yeah.
investors looking, I know med tech adjacent verticals are becoming more popular and funded by investors and VC institutions. They need a platform with individuals like yourself offering preventative care in different facets.
Hmm.
They would go to the
Yeah.
website
Yeah.
to think, okay, I'm interested in glucose or diabetes. We could work with government because this solution we have now doesn't work. We have individuals like yourself, entrepreneurs, hustling to try to become viable organizations that are self sufficient. And I think there's probably an option where both can coexist, collaborate through growth.
I have partners to create that on the back end so that if my clients needing some exercise support, I can provide them with personalized exercise programming through my partner, or if they're needing some mental health therapy with registered counselors for disordered eating. I want Kale Health Canada to become more of a platform, not just around nutrition, continuous glucose monitoring, gut health is what we're doing now, but to also have these other aspects built into the platform provided in-house and integrate things like Peloton exercise videos for metabolic health to just make it, I know it sounds cheesy, but one-stop shop for everything metabolic related.
Everything we have on our to-do list that is far from being cheesy, that is well needed. Features many of us look for. Don't make me go to 10 places. Just give me one place where I can get what I need and go about my business. I think it might be cool if anybody who's listening or sees this, that if they offer a service that, you know, is a good fit around what you do, they can contact you.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. And I am redesigning packages and offerings to be more inclusive, to give people more options. If people want to discuss partnerships, collaborations, always happy to. We are looking to work with athletes, sports teams, and performance-driven companies to help employees, individuals, team members get to the next level.
Now that we've gone rogue on this interview, let's dig into that. Tell us about the things you're working on, things you've got traction in. Share.
Yeah, so some of the things that we're working on is around looking to position ourselves as metabolic health consultants for nutrition for companies, developing more of the B2B space, working with corporations for their employee wellness, both as a whole on an organizational level, and see what that might look like, and also with their individual staff for the personal data-driven consultative piece too. For example, right now in discussion with a medium-sized company out of northern Alberta and working with them to see how to redesign their infrastructure in-house to make the healthy behaviors the more default, easy access behaviors in the workplace. It's around metabolic health, but the solution and options are variable depending on the needs of the company.
So I'd like to, just because something came up as we're talking, do you think, and I'm a layman, full disclosure, does stress impact metabolic health?
The short answer is yes, 100%. I was in Edmonton for a work trip for a week. My schedule was packed from 9 a.m. till 7 p.m., 5 days a week. I was out of my routine, stay with my folks to visit them, different from living in my own home, all this stuff. After that week, I came back and I did some lab tests, and my cortisol level, which is a stress hormone, shot up, went above the normal range for cutoff. So that is just an indication of the short-term stress, how it could affect you. And now, if you are to have long-term stress, that cortisol level will stay high, and the cortisol counteracts the effect of insulin, which is the hormone that controls blood sugar. For myself, during that COVID, work-related stress worsened my blood sugar.
Right.
Stress is a big factor.
Interesting. Because I think not enough people, one, are aware, and two, understand how all of that will impact the quality of your work.
100%. I don't expect people to be a nerd like me and dig into the science. I try to make things simple, actionable, practical, personalized, and data driven. So you don't have to worry about all these different stuff in the background. We just need to figure out how we can use your numbers to get to your goal.
Amazing. Is your proudest moment since you started this journey? What are you most happy and fulfilled with?
I would say my proudest moment would be my first client who was pre-diabetic, didn't want to go on medications, and we were able to reverse the condition in under 60 days by using the tools that we were able to provide her. And she still gives me updates periodically and say things are fantastic. She is now in control and feeling the best. And so really, I think that is just amazing to see the results, the improvements, and ultimately extend lives.
That must feel so fulfilling. It's proof positive, becomes the memory when things get a little more challenging, that you are making a difference in people's lives.
Yes, exactly.
I love that. Do you have children?
Not planning to next maybe year-ish or sooner.
I ask because sometimes when entrepreneurs are at this stage, it could be children, pets, extended family. Many of us are living with taking care of our parents and our children. As your company seems to be starting to get traction, how are you balancing real life? Because it's not like you're 20, right? And I'm far from 20, so still living in the part, there's not the same accountabilities in life. I read something, Gen X and millennial women are becoming entrepreneurs in high numbers. When you get into your 30s, 40s, 50s, you're usually juggling a lot. How do you balance it all?
One of the goals I have for the next 6 months is to really build out a solid team. So right now I have some fantastic mentors in the health tech and the wellness industry, previous entrepreneurs who I'm working with to guide me through this. But I do really want to help with things that I'm not an expert in, and I can focus more of my work doing the things that I enjoy in this business. People versed in marketing will be fantastic to have on the team. People who are CTOs, CFOs to help build a platform. These key skill sets will be fantastic so that I could focus on other parts. And outside of work, I do things that are de-stressing rather than going and doing like HIIT exercises or going for an intense run. I know that my body, after maybe stressful day at work, needs to decompress and do some of these other recovery-based activities to keep my cortisol low so that my blood sugar and all these things can work a bit better for me for the recovery. So it's having more structure, boundaries, and knowing I need help and support for my business.
That's so true. I speak often to entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and micro businesses. Many of them, especially women and men for different reasons, feel alone on their island. So the fact that you surrounded yourself and curated a network and a support team to help you through that is pivotal to your evolution.
Yeah, exactly. I'm part of this startup accelerator program that's supported by organization Silicon Valley, and I have access to some really great mentors pushing me to the next level and rethink some of these things. So yeah, having the support when you're essentially a solopreneur or just starting out or growing the business is important. Yeah.
And what inspired you to realize it was time to apply to an accelerator program and start to curate your mastermind alliance around you?
I don't know if I knew it was the right time. I just did it. We have hesitations. Everybody does, an entrepreneur or not. Am I good enough? Should I do this? There's that hesitation. I met this fantastic woman. She runs a kind of transportation service for kids who have busy parents to get access to certain after and before school programs, the extracurricular and all these things. And she was part of this accelerator program back in the day. As a result of that, she was able to grow her business, get on Dragon's Den, meet some really great people, etc. And she encouraged me to apply. I said, okay, I'll do it and see what happens. I ended up being a part of this cohort, and it's been a great learning experience. There's lots of different companies, individuals who are part of this cohort. We're learning from each other. A lot of the businesses are further ahead in their development than me. I'm probably the one at the very beginning compared to everybody else.
That's good for you though, right? You get to benefit. When you're the one farthest ahead, you don't get the same type of benefits. When you're surrounded by people who have gotten farther, it gives you opportunity to get knowledge. And so I think you were lucky.
Thank you.
So we're almost at our time. I would love to know if there's anybody who is debating this next step into entrepreneurship in the health sector. What would you tell them? What do you wish somebody had told you when you were at the very first day of, I should maybe do this entrepreneurship?
So I would tell people to go for it. If you have a passion, a great idea, if you're excited, try it out. You don't have to quit your day job. It could start from a small side hustle, a few hours a month even. Back I was debating whether to attend a Startup Canada conference in Calgary. This was about a year and a half or 2 years ago. I thought, I'll see what happens. Network meets people. The company was very different from today. That was a catalyst for me thinking there's this whole network, this ecosystem of startups I wasn't aware of, and I want to be a part of it. Slogan, just do it, and you never know where it's going to go.
I totally agree. If we spend too much time thinking, our brain wants us to stay in place. If you stay too long, your brain will convince you it's the worst idea when it could be the best idea that would change not only your life, but the life of others as well. So that just do it is correct. And what? So what? You fail. It doesn't matter.
You fail, but failing is not a bad thing. In school, we are told, oh, you failed this test, and this means you're not great at learning, or we internalize it thinking we're not a good person. But really, in life, failing is a signal that maybe this thing is not working. Let's try something else.
I like what you said. I think you should stop calling it failure and start calling it signals. Signals to let you know if you're on the right path, have something to learn, or maybe you should pivot. I'm going to steal that.
Yeah, go for it.
That's part of the love I have of talking to incredible people like yourselves, because I learned something with every single person that I talk to. And I learned so much with you today, so much about things we don't talk about or from perspectives we engaged in today. I really appreciate you for that.
I appreciate the conversation. I love chatting about not only my work, but just about ideas in general. So I really appreciate the opportunity.
I would love for you to stay in touch, and maybe we can talk again about how far you've come. That's always encouraging for the community. Representation is everything. Are there last words you would like to share? What is the last thought you would like to leave with people? And also, how can they get in touch with you?
The last thought I would leave is that when it comes to health and wellness, you know your body, your symptoms. We need to give you the tools and support so you can take control and fly the plane with your body, right? And so a lot of the times in health, we get discouraged, not feeling supported, lost, or confused, right? So it's seeking out the individuals, the organizations, or other resources that could guide you, help make your body work for you. And so if people want to get in touch with me, they could go on my website, is kalehealth.ca, kale like the vegetable, kalehealth.ca. They can book a call with me. They can find out more about the programs and services. And if you are a small to medium-sized company who are looking for employee wellness, email Jennie at kalehealth.ca. The contact information is also on the
Awesome. As we wind down, why did you know like the vegetable.
I was at my in-laws when I came up with the name. My mother-in-law has a fantastic garden in the backyard and loves growing kale, lettuce, and all these vegetables. And so I looked outside, I saw a bunch of vegetables, and I thought, wow, kale is one of those things that people probably think of when they think of healthy, green, leafy vegetables. So that's where I got the name.
No, it sounds sophisticated, like a serious name. I wanted to ask you that question. Thank you for answering. It makes sense. Tying what you're doing to taking care of a garden, planting seeds, watching it grow, becoming healthy sources of nutrition. There's a beautiful metaphor that resonates with me.
Voices, no futures.